What began as another sweet lifestyle gesture, a few berries, a little morning light, a touch of nostalgia, quickly turned into a collision of brands. The moment Meghan unveiled as ever with a jar of homemade jam and a few carefully staged photographs from Montecito, a tractor rolled straight into frame, the brand Beckham machine. Suddenly it became clear that when a professional family enterprise, built on global sport, pop culture, and the discipline of a marriage that runs like a business, moves into the homemade flavor market, any fragile vignette of simplicity is bound to crack at the seams. David Beckham does what has always worked in Britain and far beyond. He doesn't talk, he shows. Rows of currants, neat lines of apple trees, his own beehives, short videos at dusk with a rumpled cap and sticky fingers. This isn't a Pinterest tableau, it's tactility. Audiences instantly read it as authenticity. It doesn't matter how many managers and brand directors stand behind him, if on screen you see a man who actually picked the plum, wiped off the dust, dropped it into the pot and stood watching the foam rise, you can smell childhood in it. And if Victoria stands nearby, her table spotless and her label fonts calibrated to the millimeter, the audience receives a rare combination of craft and polish. Against this fusion, Meghan has nothing to counter. As ever was always trapped in the same loop, limited drops of supposedly handcrafted jars, labels heavy with sentimentality, photographs taken in rented interiors where every napkin looks like stage prop. In theory, a modern formula, story plus scarcity plus I'm right there in the kitchen with you. In practice, a performance built for the camera, where the scent is not vanilla but production lights. And the more often the brand repeats the word heartfelt, the louder the public whispers pretentious. The Beckhams play to a different score. They have no need to prove their right to domesticity. David earned his reputation through decades of sweat and work, Victoria through relentless perfectionism and a fashion house built pillar by pillar. When such a couple posts a video in the kitchen, nobody imagines a third camera just outside the frame. And when they poke fun at their own family cooking, whether Brooklyn's clumsy jam or a new batch of garden plums, it works like warm, self-aware television, not like an advert. Their jam is not a seasonal stunt but an entry point into a whole ecosystem. Honey from their own hives, garden infusions, perhaps a cider line, maybe even a small vineyard, plus a country chic interiors range under Victoria's gaze. The logistics and the unit economics are legible without any pitch deck. Supplies from their own land, obsessive quality control, a markup that makes sense because it is made on our land, collaborations with retailers like Fortnum and Mason or Harrods, alongside direct-to-consumer channels and a farm shop where the queue itself becomes part of the show. Their content strategy is another trick. The Beckhams don't waste words. A short clip, live sound, a spoon lifting warm fruit, and within 20 seconds your mouth waters. Meghan delivers monologues, background lists of little pleasures, poses with a knife held like a prop, and inevitably the association is photo for the grid rather than moment of life. Instagram in 2025 is not about flawless pictures, it's about gestures you can feel. Where Victoria leaves a tiny imperfection, a drop of jam on the rim of the jar, as ever insists on polishing everything until it glows sterile. And sterility is the enemy of appetite. The numbers are just as unforgiving. If as ever produces 300 to 500 jars per drop at $35.45 each, that is scarcity marketing as a parlor trick, hype wave, skepticism wave, resale wave. The Beckhams, even with limited runs, immediately project scalability. Acres of fruit, contracted artisanal cookhouses under their oversight, stable batches that can be distributed regionally and exported without loss of face. From there, gift sets, seasonal holiday editions, themed flavors tied to football derbies. Yes, it sounds like a joke, but this is how emotional selling works, hospitality lines for hotels and golf clubs. And the crown jewel, honey. Beehives are a ready-made story about care and nature. No photo of lavender sprigs in Montecito can outshine a Beckham child lifting a frame into the honey extractor. Trust matters too. The Beckhams have weathered decades of public storms but never Monetized family conflict as content. That creates the effect of reliable neighbors. Yes, wealthy, yes, famous, but in the frame you see care, work, jokes, bread. Meghan cannot escape the tale of history, interviews, lawsuits, memoirs, the rhetoric of truth and reconciliation. No matter how many times she insists that jam is outside politics, Audiences see not only strawberries in the jar but also the press diary of recent years. It may be unfair, but brands are built from both strength and baggage. Strategically, Meghan could still pivot. The opposite path is open: embrace genuine low-fi honesty. Admit there are other hands in the kitchen, show the technician, confess when a batch failed, overcooked, turned it into sauce, appear offline not in a curated pop-up but on a regular shelf at the local farmer's market, where products stand side by side and are judged by taste, not by story. People believe those who endure the dull routine of craft. But as ever persists in its world of guests, candles and fragrant sprigs, where the product is an accessory for performance. The problem is that performance cannot be spread on bread. The contrast is sharpened by the Beckhams' mastery of visual self-irony. Victoria is ruthless about detail but never afraid to laugh at herself or her family. That mix disarms skeptics. They know they look perfect, and they aren't too proud to play at imperfection. Meghan rarely chooses self-irony. Her public tone is more often defensive seriousness. For recipes and honey spoons, that is fatal. Food loves a smile, not a manifesto. Their advantage is also institutional. Britain adores proper country: brick, copper, orchard, dog, jam jar on the sill, Angus Devil-style typography. David embodies authentic Englishness. Victoria is the export face of British fashion. When they write made at home, the home is England itself. As ever can never be that, it is West Coast America, midday sun, white linen, citrus water. Beautiful, but it demands another honesty: Californian honesty. Farmer's name, soil specificity, microbatches, collaborations with local chefs who actually cook with it. Until the brand trades in that kind of tangible detail, audiences will keep choosing the place where the knife slides into real fruit rather than into a storyline. Even if Meghan pushes harder on scarcity and collabs, the Beckhams will still win on structure. They already have distribution, standards, ambassadors, footballers, models, chefs, family friends, and charity built in, because a slice of profit donated to children's causes looks natural in their hands. They can play premium and still stock accessible jars at village fairs without hurting the high margin on Victoria's fashion line. As ever remains squeezed between souvenir for fans and too expensive for a product without craft. The market for lifestyle foods craves more than taste, it craves the sense you've been invited to the table. The Beckhams know how to invite without overselling. The irony is that they succeed at exactly the homeliness Meghan wanted to market without a manifesto, without talking about values, just sugar, pectin, fruit, and a hand stirring. The less they explain, the more they're believed. The more As Ever explains, the more people ask, can we just taste it? Meghan still has a window: local honesty and narrow expertise. If she stops competing with the idea of the British home and embraces the California yard as her truth, if she stops selling perfection and starts selling imperfection, if she dials down the gloss and dials up the craft, the brand could be reborn. But that would mean ceding the stage to the product and stepping out of the spotlight. Accepting that a jar doesn't need a title, it needs flavor. For now, the scoreboard is brutal. The Beckhams have orchards, honey, laughter, cues, and a Rolodex of wholesalers. As Ever has a perfect caption, flawless light, and comments asking why it's sold out again. It isn't permanent defeat. It's a lesson. Homemade belongs to those unafraid of sticky fingers, and spirit of brand belongs to those unafraid to leave the frame. If one family can turn a plum into an event, another must learn to turn an event into a simple, honest, edible jar. Then the market itself will sort the rest, without memes, without jokes, without the juggernaut. Just bread, butter, and jam.